Hey, Henry.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Good.
What are we doing?
Making a chair leg, I think.
A chair leg?
Yeah.
Why are we making a chair leg?
To replace my chair because it got broken.
Okay. So, what is this part right here?
Are you talking about the wood
The
part?
wood. Yeah,
Oh,
what's
okay.
this?
That's the chair leg.
Which leg?
I don't know.
Well, I guess, right now we don't know whether it's left or right, but we do know whether it's front or back.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
Is your chair going to have a back on it that you can lean against?
Yeah.
And let's see, this chair leg is maybe 20 inches long right now. Is that going to be tall enough to lean against?
No.
No. So what do you think it is, a front or a back?
Front
Okay.
chair leg.
So, we are going to take this rectangular chair leg, square actually, it's
Yes.
1 5/8 square, and we're going to turn it into a round leg. We're also going to put a taper on the end.
Yep.
We're gonna taper this down to a 1-inch circle at the bottom,
Okay.
right? But we have to make it a square first.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can shape it into a circle.
Wait, you mean octagon, right?
Well, first square, then octagon, then 32 sides, then 64 sides, then round. Right?
64 sides.
Yeah, it's a lot of sides. We'll get there. It's step by step. So we need to lay out the 1-inch square because we want this to taper from 1 5/8 square to 1-inch square. And we want it to be centered on the bottom. We have a 1 5/8 square, we want to go to a 1-inch square. What's the difference in width?
Wait, 1/8? Did you say 1/8?
From 1 5/8 to 1 inch.
5/8. Well, I guess the difference is it's 5/8
Right.
less.
So we need to take off 5/8.
Yes.
But we want to take it evenly all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we're going to take a total of 5/8, then how much do we take off of each side?
1.5.
Well, okay, 1/2 of that, right? Right. We take half off of here
So
and half of that off of here. So we've got 5/8, and we want half of 5/8. Do you remember the little shortcut I told you?
No.
Okay, so you know what the numerator and the denominator are in
Yeah.
a fraction? Which one's which?
The denominator's at the bottom and the numerator's at the top.
Right. So if you have a fraction and you want half, you want to cut it in half, you double the denominator.
Oh.
Right? So what's half of 5/8?
10/8.
That's the numerator.
Oh.
What's the denominator? What's 2 times 8?
16
16
fifth.
5/16.
5/16.
That's right. Okay, so do you remember where we can read 16ths on this ruler?
Here?
What are these?
Oh.
What's that number right there?
8.
8. So these are eighths.
Eighths.
And we go down this end. What's that number there?
16th.
Okay, so these lines on this edge of the ruler, each line is a 16th. So we want 5/16. Can you slide this up to where only 5/16 are sticking out from the edge? So you have to loosen that little.
Do you
Other
go?
way,
I
other way.
can't. Ah,
Okay, let me get you.
it's really hard.
There you go. Slide it gently until only 5 of those 16ths are sticking out.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So one more, right? Very slowly. Right. Okay, go ahead and tighten that up. And we don't have to be perfect. Hold that on here. Use this is called a stock or a fence. Push the stock against the edge and trace a line across just the end of the ruler there. Okay, let's flip it and do the other side.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
that
that's
was
right. We can
very
see it.
light.
It doesn't have to be hard because we're checking our work right now. So we're gonna do 2 light lines. That's fine. Now we're gonna hold the ruler up and see.
1 inch.
We have an inch between the lines.
I think so.
Looks like we do. It looks like you nailed it. Okay, so now
Why did you do the 5 in between each line?
5 in between each line.
You know, this was right here.
Oh, I was just picking any 2 inch marks, right? So I wanted to find a whole inch and a whole inch. So it could have been 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 4 to 5, doesn't matter. Good question though. Okay, so now we want to make this box go all the way around, but only Only the box. We don't want to extend the lines out just yet. So we're just going to go across. Okay, I'll hold and you mark. So make sure the tip of the pencil is right up against the edge of the ruler. There you go. See how you're tilting it? Makes a difference. Okay, so do you remember at one point in time we talked about the radial plane versus the tangential plane on wood?
Yeah, I think this was the tangential plane and this was the radial plane.
Well, it's going to be different on every piece of wood because it's about the rings and the orientation of the rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you chop the top of a tree off and you look down at it, what do you see?
Rings.
You see rings.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you remember what a tangent is?
It goes off a circle.
Right. So if you have
Goes off
a circle
Well, actually,
like
right.
this, a tangent touches the circle at one point, right? And so a tangent could be at any angle just so long as it only touches the circle at one point. Okay, so look at this. We've got rings here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the rings are curved
Yeah.
like that. So the tangent is anywhere a straight line touches one of those curves in one spot. Okay, so we're going to average these rings out and say that the rings are going at this angle.
Mm-hmm.
So the true tangential plane is parallel to the rings, right?
Okay.
Same angle as the rings. Okay, and then remember the radial.
The radial is not.
So what do the rays of the sun do? They radiate outwards, right? So the radial plane radiates from the center of the circle out,
Okay.
right? So let's see, if we've got a circle here, it would come from the center of the circle out in any direction. So we rotate it, and the radial plane is just any plane that extends straight through the center of the circle because it'll radiate out on either side. So if we see that the rings are curved this way, the radial plane is this way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always 90 degrees from the tangential plane.
Yep.
And one of the things we know about wood is it's easier. We're going to have to shave this wood to shape, right? We have to cut it by hand.
Yep.
And one of the things we know about wood is it's easier to shave the radial plane than it is to shave the tangential plane.
Wait.
But guess what? On our part here, they're at 45 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means it doesn't really matter where we start. If we had a different piece of wood, let me see if I can find one.
Okay.
Okay, let's see.
That piece
If
of
we had
wood.
this piece of wood and our leg was right there, right? Just that little square.
Yep.
This would be the radial plane, and these two faces would be the tangential plane, and the other radial plane would be on this face once we cut it. So which two faces would we want to cut first? Well, name them first.
The tangential.
The radial is easier than the tangential.
Radial. This is radial, right?
What's radial?
This and this. This
Okay,
face
what
and
does
that
what does the radial do? It comes from the center,
comes
right?
from the center, yeah.
Right, and the tangential is parallel to
The tangential is parallel to the outside of the
the
circle?
rings,
Yeah,
right? The rings. Okay, so where are the rings? Okay, trace one.
Here.
There you go. Okay, so if the tangential plane is parallel to the rings, it's closer to this face, right?
Yep.
And is the tangential plane easier or harder to shave?
Harder?
Harder.
Okay, so this face then.
Right. This is our radial plane, our radial face, and this over here would be our radial face. So we want to start on this face and that face. But on this part, we're pretty much the same. We're even. So it doesn't matter which face we pick.
Yep.
So here's what I want you to do. We have to work on opposite faces. So I want you to pick two faces that are
Slow
opposite.
down, Daddy.
You want me to slow? I'm talking too fast?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll slow down. So since it doesn't matter which faces we start with, I want you to pick two faces that are opposite each other and put an X on them. Okay, so we're going to start on that face and opposite on that face.
It was
Okay,
just
good.
random.
All right, so if we're going to shave these two faces first, we need to extend our layout lines over to these two faces so we can lay out a line to follow, right? So we can see what we're doing. So here's
What?
how about you watch me, or just help me do it, and you'll
Okay.
understand, I think, when we get there.
Oh, okay.
So go ahead and
That was
finish
it.
that line all the way out. All the way over here too. Okay, we're gonna. Oop. Oh, yeah, we don't want to drop those on the ground. Okay, is our setting still the same?
Looks like it.
Yep, looks pretty good. Okay, and it fell on a soft surface, so I think we're okay. We didn't damage it. This is one of those tools you don't want to drop. Okay, so we're gonna shave this material off and this material off.
Yep.
But are we gonna do the whole length?
No.
Okay, so we need to know
I
where to
already
stop.
started with that.
Well, I don't know if that's in the right place. So
Oh, okay.
let's reposition the part and we'll come back in just a second.
Okay.
Okay. We've got a line here that was put when we were just having fun with the pencil, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the line we want. So can you scribble that line out?
I thought it was the one.
Well, it could be. If we wanted to have a taper that started here and went to here, it could be the right line. But for this design that we're working on, that's not the right spot. So I'm going to open this square up and I'm going to set it.
Out.
Yeah, you did. You got it scribbled really well. It'll all get cut off in a minute. So I'm going to set this square at 9.5 inches because that is the length of the taper that we want. So we're going to put this down on this end and you're going to mark across the end of that ruler. So we're using our stock again. Okay, don't be afraid to push down hard because we need to make sure we can see that line because remember we're going to be working on this part for a while. All right, so that side. Okay, so we'll finish this up. We'll be back in just a second. All right, so we've got our taper start or end line, depending upon what you how you think of it. And then out here on the end, I've darkened these lines up a little bit, and it looks like I went a little too far and extended this line. So we're gonna ignore that little segment of the line.
Ignore the corner.
Okay, so we need to transfer these two lines onto this face, just a little pencil mark so that we can connect that line to where this line goes off the edge of the part. So why don't you do that? Okay. So I see you've marked the lines here, but I noticed that you have like 4 lines to choose from. So which line do we follow?
I thought they would just represent be one line.
Okay, so that would be a really wide line, I guess.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get just that one spot. This side's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we've got a little straight edge here. We can line up those 2 spots and you can trace the taper. So why don't you go ahead and do that? I can't hold the phone and trace. So make sure you get them lined up, hold it tight down, and trace. And you want it to be a dark line so you can see it. How's it look? Looks pretty good. Okay, so let's do the other side. So we got to go from here to there.
I need to flip the part around.
That's fine. You can do whatever you want. You can even put it in the vise if you want. Oops. You want me to hold it down on that end? You do the far end, I'll do this end. Make sure you get the other side where you want it. Almost. It looks like you went off. Okay. How's that look? Oh yeah, that looks really good. Okay, so we got a little mineral streak here that might confuse us a bit while we're shaping.
Mineral streak.
It's something that happens in cherry. It just gets these little dark stripes in it like that. But okay, but I think it'll be fine. So yeah, let's do this again. Okay, so again, you got your line didn't quite line up with the one on the side. So can we just give me a tiny little mark like I did? Oops. That looks really good. So I'm gonna hold this end. You get that in where you want it. Tell me when to hold it.
Hold. Wait, now hold.
All right, you happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what you did today is you laid out the first 2 tapers on this part. Now, are you ready to maybe take some shavings?
Yep.
Okay, it's always fun to do that right away, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, let's get over to the shave horse and I'll show you what to do. So we've got our shave horse. So what were you showing me there?
Draw a knife.
Right, that's a draw knife. And what were you showing me by holding it like that? What does that mean?
It means that if you hold it like this and it's the right size, it probably won't. It's less likely to cut you.
And what's the most important thing most important rule about that is you have to use how many hands? 2 hands. You always
That's why it has 2 handles.
always have 2 hands on the draw knife, and you always use the handles. You don't hold it by the knife,
Yep.
the metal part. Okay, so we are going to start to remove material from this part. And this is a really wide cut. So what we're gonna do
Skew and slice?
yes, skew and slice is important, but right now we're gonna cut at a 45-degree angle. This face and this face are at 90 degrees. So if we look at the end, that's a square, right?
Yep.
90-degree square.
Yep.
So 45 degrees is just halfway between the two. Okay, so what we're gonna do is cut at 45 degrees, and we're going to, I put these lines on here, they're called witness marks. That gives us an idea of how much material is left. We're gonna use the draw knife to cut only within 1/8 of an inch of the final cut.
Okay.
And so if we move this back, okay, don't move the knife because my finger's gonna be, that line right there is about 1/8 of an inch long.
Okay.
So we don't need to cut any further up than this. This is our last, this is where we stop cutting.
Okay.
So you want to make all these lines the same length as that line.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
Wait, what is skew and slice again?
Okay, so you're taking a really deep cut there. So let's let
Okay.
off a bit. There. Okay, so hold on a second. All right, so skew means instead of holding it square to the part, you rotate it. Slice means that as you cut, you slice down the edge of the blade. Okay, see how easy that shaving came off?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, and don't try to take too much at once. It's light cuts. Okay, that's a little too heavy. Back off and start below it. So start on the other side of the shaving. There you go. Okay, and if you're taking too deep a cut, you can, hold on a second. You can, okay, hold on a second, please. Let me, while I'm talking, don't cut, okay? If you're taking too deep a cut, tilt the blade down like this. It'll take a lighter cut.
Okay.
If it's not cutting anything, then you have to tilt it this way a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're doing a little bit of skew, but not a lot of slice. There you
There
go.
we
Wasn't that
go.
easier?
Yes.
Yeah. And so the draw knife is our rough cutter. It just gets as much of the material out of the way as we can get quickly. And that lets us get to the spoke shave, which is the next step.
Oops.
It's okay.
Oh, wait.
That's a really deep cut. There you go. You getting it?
Oops.
Okay, so I think, can you stop for a
That
second?
may be
I
enough.
think you're at 1/8 of an inch there. Got a little bit of material up here to remove.
Oh, way too much.
Right. Just don't go past the line. I think we might have decided that you would be better with the draw knife bevel down because of your body geometry. So I'm going to turn it over for you. Let go.
Draw knife bevel.
So this is the bevel, this part right here. So right now it's bevel up. In order to use bevel up properly, you have to keep the handles up.
Oh.
And because you're short, you're having a hard time keeping your elbows up high enough. So what we're going to do is flip it over. Can you take it from my?
Okay.
And now you don't have to have your elbows as high. And I think you'll find
Yeah, that was
you have a little bit more control. Okay, so I think you got this side. Let's go the other side. 45 degrees. Okay, so you're still dipping it a little too deep.
Okay.
Yeah, so try to, you keep sliding it and change the angle until it starts cutting. Then, yes, there you go. Oh my goodness. That is draw knife work right there. So don't cut too deep and don't dive too hard on that cut. So if it's cutting, if it's grabbing hold like that, you need to pivot the handles up a bit. Use the whole width of the blade, right? There you go. You're getting your slicing action down pretty good.
That was fast.
Yep, pretty fast. Okay, so you got a little bit of material left here. think that looks really good.
Those are that's a really. I honestly gotta say that the mineral stains look pretty nice once you cut them.
Oh, you like the mineral streaks?
Yes.
Okay, so let's put the knife down here. Yep. And let me get you a pencil. Can you replace those witness marks?
Where?
On the new facets that you just cut.
Oh.
They don't have to be precise. You're just trying to put something so that you have a reference so you know when you've gone to the edge. And you notice that, you know, you stopped cutting right here,
Yeah.
even though the taper starts up here. We're just taking the rough cuts now. Got our witness marks replaced so we can see what we're doing.
Yep.
Okay, now we're going to, we were just talking about how this is a lot shallower than 45 degrees, but it's okay. We're gonna split the difference between this new face, this is called a facet, and the original flat face. We're gonna try to split the difference. And we're gonna be watching, this time we're gonna be watching the witness marks on this new facet you cut. And as soon as they disappear, we're gonna stop cutting.
Yep.
And we'll move to the other side. So start on this side. Yeah, there you go. Start out here on the end. Oh, that's some good skew and slice right there. Oop, okay, look, you got really close to your line there. So let's stop cutting in that spot.
Time to go over here.
Oh, you did? Okay. So I think you're taking too steep an approach there.
Okay.
Or maybe not. Maybe when I sharpen it,
I'm
I
also
change the
done.
angle. Okay, so let's put the lines on one more time and we'll come back in just a second, all right? Okay, we got our marks back on. Okay, so this is gonna be our second to last series of cuts. We are going to try to make, stop for a second. I'm gonna put my finger in there, so I'd rather you not cut it off. We're gonna try to make as shallow a bevel as we can, but not flat. We're gonna do that on both sides. So go ahead and cut. Yep, start on the end. That's a good place to start. See it? Okay, so remember, your blade is 8 inches long. You want to slice along the full length of that if you can. And it's easier if you're already skewed when you start the cut. Remember the skew?
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Yep. I don't think we need a clamp on the other side. So I noticed that we had some issues with geometry, so we put some boosters under his seat. And maybe this will make it easier for you to use that draw knife.
Right, I forgot.
Yeah, you got to clamp it, otherwise you're going to end up with that part stuck in your chest. Okay, so your hands already look more comfortable. Lots of skew and slice.
Like that.
Yep, then you can take lighter cuts. You don't have to cut really deep cuts. Okay, so you're skipping out of the cut. You want to try to... Okay, so let's...
Skip it out of the cut?
Everybody's going chop, 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 chop. Okay, here's what we're going to do. You hold that end.
Okay.
2 hands. One on both ends. I'm gonna try to guide the cut. So we're gonna slice.
Okay. Ow!
Oops, sorry. So I'd say we're done on this side. Now we're gonna rotate. Yep. So you can skew the same way, or you can skew the other way. You just have to tilt the draw knife, but you're not skewing at all right now. There you go. Yeah, I think that's how I would do it. Okay, much better. Okay, so we want to try to avoid little short cuts like that. We want to use the long slicing cuts. So you're skewed, but you're not slicing anymore. You just quit. Okay, so now, that was good. That was actually a really good one right there. Now we're gonna lay the knife flat across the top. We're gonna start taking shorter cuts and then longer cuts and then longer cuts. But we're gonna definitely skew and slice. I think maybe we need a demo.
Double that. Okay,
Okay,
here.
set it back on the shave horse down there. So, can you see what I'm doing here?
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna start way up here on the corner.
Yep.
And you notice how I'm not really steep here. I'm a pretty shallow cut. As shallow as I can make it and still get the blade to cut.
Okay.
Okay, so instead of making little cuts like that, I'm kind of bouncing it against the part where it's sticking up.
What do you mean bouncing?
Well,
It's
so
kinda
you're
hard to
doing
tell
this
through the camera.
like this.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm doing this.
Oh, okay.
I'm not picking the blade up. I'm getting a little momentum.
You're pushing it back.
Well, I'm getting a little momentum, so it cuts through that high spot. Okay. And once I get a smooth face, this is kind of a hard cut. Draw knife, again, is just our rough cut. Okay, so
I was
I'm
so
having
busy watching you while I wasn't paying attention to where the camera
It's okay.
was.
It's hard to watch the camera and the action if you're trying to learn. If you're just trying to film, it's a little easier just to focus on the camera. So we can see, if you look at this spot,
Yeah.
you've got it right around almost 1/8 of an inch, but it's a little rough there. Yeah, so the draw knife is a little bit harder tool to use than the spoke shave, which is the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and just
Finish this off.
take this cut for you. I'm going to do the rough cuts for you.
We'll be back in a second.
Okay. Okay, so you've got your part.
Yep.
And we roughed out the material. So now, tomorrow, so that's all we're gonna do today. Not a lot, we're just gonna try to take it easy here, a little bit at each day. Tomorrow, we're gonna grab the spoke shave, which is a little different tool, and we're going to work our way down to that line on both sides. So all 4 corners, but just 2 sides of the part.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
What you got there, Henry?
Oh, shaving in my boot.
You got shaving in your boot?
Yes.
Are you keeping that for later?
No. I'm trying to get it out.
What happened to your knee?
Oh, yeah, I crashed.
Crashed
on
what?
My bike.
You crashed on your shave horse?
No, my bike.